What's up, people, and welcome to another episode of the I Am Conquering Mountains podcast. I'm your host, I Am Conquering Mountains. We have a very, very, very special guest here today. This is an individual who has, when you hear his story, he's conquered it all. He is a CrossFit coach. He is at the gym that I attend as well, a CrossFit gym out in Annapolis, Maryland, called True Core CrossFit, where they are doing a great deal of work helping people not only to get physically fit, but also mentally fit as well with the diets and the nutrition and the exercises they provide. Is helping people to feel more comfortable with who they are and helping them to accomplish those goals. I want to introduce you all and give a warm welcome to Mr. and Coach Josh Buell. So welcome, Josh. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. That was a very kind introduction.
You're doing a lot of things, and you're impacting the community, especially out there in Annapolis, Maryland, with the coaching that you guys provide out there at True Core CrossFit. I love the environment there. It's very team oriented. As a competition is in CrossFit, especially like as you go and you do the workouts, you're kind of competing with yourself and competing with other people that's in the classes. But I love the family environment that you guys have created. I never feel judged or pushed or anything like that, especially with all my injuries. I definitely feel that you guys are doing some great work to help people accomplish their fitness goals, as well as getting people mentally fit, as well too, as they kind of get better at their nutrition goals and stuff like that. So definitely appreciate all the things you guys are doing in the community. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about how Josh and I got in contact and began to want to do the podcast. I met Josh when I first joined True Core CrossFit. I went to the 5:45 a.m. class before work. And when I posted the flyer trying to doing the casting call for the podcast, Josh did reach out and mention that he had a story that he wanted to share and trying to get more comfortable with sharing that story. And when he told me what his story was, I was like, yes, man, absolutely. We got to get you on because he's got a lot of insight to provide, things that he's been through, things that he's conquered and overcome. A lot of people out there in the world are trying to overcome as well. So he's got a lot of tools to kind of put into your toolbox. So Josh, how long have you been in CrossFit?
Probably about 4 years. And I wanted to also say that I was fortunate enough to be invited to be a part of what True Core does. So I appreciate you putting me out there, but that was, that's Shannon and Joanna and Steve and everyone else there, Ryan. So they asked me about a year ago if I wanted to coach. So I obliged and I was flattered. But I've been going to True Core for about 3 years. I was at another place in Germantown before that. I just needed a change in my routine, and I went to a 6-week trial course at another box in Germantown, Maryland. And then when I moved to Annapolis, I walked in for a drop-in class, and before I left, I'd signed a membership at True Core.
Nice.
Same thing. And then fast forward 3 years later, and I was a coach. So yeah.
Okay. So I heard people say like they got bit by the CrossFit bug. What does that mean?
Well, it's all the things you described. So I've dropped into a lot of them all over the country, just traveling for work, a few abroad, and very similar. The environment is very similar, even though the facility may not be. Everybody's encouraged. There, like you said, you're competing with yourself. You're not looking at your neighbor next to you lifting a weight and saying, "Oh, I'm doing more," or "How can I do as much as that person?" Like everybody is. You're focused on you, and everybody there is encouraging each individual person, member or coach, to do the best that you can do individually. And it was something that I don't know, it was a combination of that sort of attitude and just the physical aspect of it that just drew me in. And there's always something more to try to do. The challenges are attainable. You can measure your own progress and take in it. I don't know. a million different reasons, but I think the biggest one was just the attitude, the environment, the sort of inclusive nature of everybody there. And it also draws in the staff draws good people to be members as well. That's another piece of it that I've noticed over the last couple of years, that Shannon, the owner, and all of her staff have created something that good people are drawn to, or they check it out, stay. I've met a tremendous group of people through that place as well. A lot of whom have helped me get past a lot of the things that have been holding me back for the last several years too. So,
okay. Yeah. So do you feel like CrossFit is kind of like therapeutic in a sense?
Absolutely. For me it is.
Yeah. Can you share how so?
Well, for me personally, years ago, I was at a point where personally, professionally, financially, every part of my life was out of my control.
Okay.
So, or it seemed to be, or I didn't know how to wrest control back from what I thought was out of my control.
That's a good point.
And I began to work out at a rate I never had before, because the only thing I thought I could really control was my physical being. Not even mentally. Like I just wanted to say, okay, look, I can transform myself physically. I can have, when I wake up, there's one thing that I know I have control over, and that is my physical makeup. And that's kind of, I was going 1,000 miles an hour every day, no real regimented anything, but just making sure I was using working out as a means to grasp some control, but also to really as a means to pay little to no attention to all of the things that were plaguing my existence. And
I hear you.
That's how I jumped into CrossFit. I said, all right, another thing I can add to what I'm doing, and I'll just go. But I got there, and it was the environment and all of the things that we just talked about that became more than just another method for me to ignore or disregard all the things that I needed to get a hold of in my life. And it actually helped. It became therapeutic. It wasn't just an hour I could go spend and just mindless working out. Like you talk to people, you share your life for 5-10 minutes during the warm up, and then you share the workout with everybody, and then you share that time afterwards, and everybody's encouraging. So it quickly became support for me. It took a long time, and it wasn't the only thing that helped me, but it was certainly a key to just sort of jump starting me getting out of the pit I was in, and then come to True Core. And it was even more than the previous place I went. So yeah, I mean, that's how it became my therapy. I've talked to other people that, along similar lines, it's helped them the same way. And for some people, some days it is just an hour I can just go away and, spend the rest of life for whatever the reason is. But yeah, for me, that's how it became my therapy. And then I just grew to love it after that, in my early 40s. And then I decided to start doing CrossFit competitions. I don't know what
I was going to ask you, have you done any as well?
Several in the last year. So I waited until I was 41 or 42, I think, to do them. And of all people, the first one I did was with Ryan. So I'm going into it with the gym superhero. He's in the True Core version of an Avenger, and I'm going into a CrossFit competition last summer, which we're doing again in 3 weeks. The same one. We finished third, by the way. No,
nice.
Yeah. Just wanna but that bug grabbed me, and then just a few months later, so I did the first one with Ryan. The second one I did was with Amanda. Do you remember Coach Heather? Were you there with her?
I don't think so.
Another just phenomenal athlete. So it was Amanda, Ryan, and Heather. Like, oh yeah, number 2. Going to a 4-person team with the 3 of them. Like, what am I doing? Like, now I'm hooked. Like, I'm, I want to stay in them and see how far I can take this. So.
That's good. That's what I love about, especially True Core, excuse me, about CrossFit and especially at True Core because, I was going to like a gym, but it was like just stationary lifting the machines and stuff like that. And you kind of to yourself, but I like the social aspect that you get as well because, even when, you're working out and stuff like that at the CrossFit gym, when somebody finishes early, they're still like cheering you on. So you still get, that camaraderie there. Even though like you're competing, but you're still getting that kind of sense of family and social gathering, and push, to kind of push through.
The
I
person
wanted
who
to ask.
gets the most applause. Like that's how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, definitely. I've seen a lot of the videos that Shannon has posted, the owner as well, where someone still got some burpees to do, and everybody else comes in who's finished
Yep,
and does some extra burpees as well too. So
absolutely.
I mean, I definitely love that. So when you mentioned something about like exercise, working out, and kind of using that time to kind of de-stress or whatnot. It's
Mhm.
funny that you mentioned that because I have social anxiety disorder, and working out is one of the things that helps me to reduce that anxiety. And that working out, I'm a school counselor, so I often tell my students who's struggling with anxiety as well, with all the other plethora of tools that they can put into their toolbox to also use working out as well. So even though it like can take your mind off of what it is that's kind of stressing you out, you definitely get a sense of kind of relieving some of that negative tension that's building up. And you also mentioned that you had some things that were happening in your life that you needed to get distracted from. Do you
Yep.
mind sharing what some of those things were?
Oh yeah. Uh, yep. um,
Mhm.
so this is 4 or 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And there's going to be points where I need to take a minute.
Yeah,
Um,
and take your
yeah.
time.
So, uh, it was just, every I was going through a divorce,
Mhm.
and some it was pretty rough. And our everybody goes through it, and it's different for everybody, and everybody's got their
Mhm.
own stories, but this was mine, and it was impacting every facet of my life. And our company was in the middle of being bought by some big private equity firm, so we're waiting to see if who has a job, basically.
Right.
And
Wow.
like just waiting for about 6 months every day, just waiting to see if we get called into the conference room where people get called into and never return back to their desk.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
had that. And then during my divorce, or after separating and while still going through it, I got my own place. And then at one point I moved in with a friend because I thought, oh man, I had, my from 25 to 35 was spent with this person that, took
Mhm.
those years from me. And I was on my own for a minute. And then I said, well, I'm going to move in with a friend downtown Annapolis because I'm going to get
Mhm.
back out there. And that was a horrible mistake.
Mhm.
Back out anywhere, let alone
Yeah.
living with a roommate at 35
Mhm.
is insane. So that ended poorly. He's a really good friend,
Mhm.
younger uh, sibling, like friend of the family since he's been a
Okay.
baby. And then so at that point, my mom suggested, "Hey, move back in for a couple of weeks at home
Okay.
and reset, just clear your head." Because I hadn't had a point where I was able to just process anything really.
Right.
So I moved back in at home, and it was supposed to be for a couple of weeks while I was waiting for an apartment, I think. And then
Mhm.
during that stretch, my mom and my dad and one of my younger siblings were there. About a week in, I'm talking to my brother and my mom about my father and his behavior, and he'd been abusing over the counter and prescription medication, smoking weed. And he's a 30-year sober from alcohol.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm watching his behavior after less than a week being there,
Yeah.
and I'm catching little hints of things, and then it becomes more and more apparent. and he's just getting tore up every day on everything he can get his hands on. And so that was going on too. And then it went from me being there for a couple of weeks to me thinking I had to stay there to monitor and keep him alive, because I saw this happen 30 years ago and now it's happening again. And I'm trying to figure out how long it had been happening. So, and also I'm in financial ruin from going through the divorce as well. So there's all, like, that's what everything, every single piece of my life, personally and professionally, seemed like there was no control. And then throw in, I was supposed to go to my parents' house to decompress. And then within days, like, my dad is, a drug addict again. And it's like, guys, you haven't seen, and my mom and brother were too close to it, I think, to see it. When my brother didn't see it, my mother was in a bit of denial. And, but that was all, that confluence of personal and professional tumult was just, I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. Like, it was too much.
Yeah. So how did you, how long did that time frame last?
Oh gosh. Well, it had been boiling for a while. I mean, the last, I'd say 7 or 8 months of my cohabitation with my ex-wife. We were living in the same house because we were supposed to sell it. So it was all of these things with work and then my personal life saved from my mom and dad. That had just been getting worse and worse and worse. And then when I landed at my parents' house, and this supposed to be just a short respite from everything else, that ended up being almost, it was about 2.5 years I stayed there. Like, we went through an intervention. Brother and I set that up, and this was a 2.5 year process that was supposed to be 2 weeks. And I didn't make any moves because at that point, I thought I was there for a reason. Like, I landed here to help them see what he was doing and, like, killing himself again after I watched this happen 35 years prior. My earliest memories were of that. And it ended up being a futile effort at the end of it, but and then the divorce was going on the whole time. There were some other issues that I kept learning about that she surprised me with. And, there's all kinds of tax stuff. So it was about a 3-year stretch where things were professionally and personally upside down and seemingly far from my grasp.
Yeah. So all of this is happening at the same time. You have this divorce happening, you move in with a friend, that doesn't work out. You move in with family just to kind of like decompress for a bit, thinking it's going to be, a break from the stresses of life. But then you end up finding out that, your dad is abusing drugs.
Yep.
And that went on for 3 years. Is that when the working out started?
It was
how did you?
Yeah, it was. It was. So once that first 2-3 week stretch at my parents' house ended, and I decided that, okay, I'm staying here because I need to make sure that I right this ship. That's when, and all the work things, the divorce, the financial ruin, all of that was still getting worse. That was when I just woke up one day. I said, all right, I need some control. So I went and got it, like you're saying, the gym membership, and go to that gym in the morning, and then I go running hills, and then I'd go to the gym in the evening after work, after coaching soccer, and then I'd find myself at the gym again. And then it was, let me fill as much time. I stayed there because I needed to complete this mission to get him better. But then I was still using working out as a means to ignore it all.
Did you feel obligated to stay with your parents?
Yes, very much, very much. Because when I saw what was happening, when that morning that I figured out what was happening, when that light bulb went off, my brother had no idea. My youngest brother, he was completely in the dark. But I think it's just because he was so close to it, he didn't see it.
Yeah,
that's the way that my father always was to him. Which to me, I only saw him, when I come for holidays or pop in on a weekend or something. So, and my mom didn't want to believe it was going on, even though she was the one who, and I'm not blaming her, but a lot of the medication that he was experimenting with, she was filling the prescriptions for, and she would have it mailed to the house, and she'd set up his doctor's appointments, and they were smoking weed together on top of that. And like all of these things that were happening, she's facilitating, but then also sort of turning a blind eye to what it's doing to him, and then what he's doing to us in turn. And as soon as I include my brother into it, he saw it right away. He said, "Oh my gosh!" Like he retroactively realized, "Wow, all this behavior." Because my youngest brother. So when I say my dad, that's my dad, not my biological father, but he's my dad. He's been in my life since I was 5, like since I've got memories. So my youngest brother is his biological son. He was born in 86. I should know this. 86 or 87.
No, sorry.
And when my dad stopped drinking, it was 90 or 91. So he didn't go through these years that our other brother and I did. He didn't experience this. He doesn't know anything about that other than what we've talked about. And I've shared very little with him until the last 2 years about a lot of what's happened.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ruin his memories for years. I thought I wanted to protect him from, what he knew, and not that it was protecting. That's what I told myself. Wanted to keep his memories, his personal memories of his father intact, and let mine from that same period live separately. But when I was there and showed him what had been happening, I did tell him that, I'm seeing the same things I saw when I was 5 through 10, 11, 12. And then the years after got sober, tougher. They were far tougher than the other years. But I had to tell him, it's like, that's when I started to share a little bit with him, my younger brother.
Yeah.
Here's what I see. And here's what I learned through like Teen Al-Anon and going to meetings. Like, this is what we all learned as a family together. And what I'm seeing now as an adult, and like felt like the parent to a degree. And I forgot the original question. Sorry, I went down.
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
But it was, it did. I think you said, did it feel like I was obligated? So that was one part of the reason why. And then there was a motivation not to lose. My dad's going to be 70 soon. So my earliest childhood years with him.
Take time. Take your time. Sorry, man.
They were lost. So that was a part of my motive for a lot of it, and it was that part was personal, and that was for me. So that was, as much as I wanted him to get better, there was a selfish part of it. But then I wanted, I wanted my mom not to be so miserable and have to sell a happier image and message about what she's going through. I never heard her talk about wanting to leave and not be with him until that period. But it was 2 weeks in. Like, I came downstairs on a Saturday morning, 2 weeks in. She's in the kitchen at 8 o'clock in the morning crying uncontrollably. And I'd never, like, my parents are lunatics, and I love their lunacy. But that was the only time I'd ever heard her tell me, with everything else that we'd been through, that she was done and she'd had enough. And she wasn't telling me that she knew what was going on directly, very much indirectly. And that was after I'd shared a lot already in the days prior about what I'd seen. And it was, at that point, it was the selfish part. It was doing it for her, and trying to keep my dad alive. Sorry, I didn't mean.
You're all right.
Trying to keep my dad alive. You know, I
Yeah.
watched him almost die several times when I was younger, and
Mhm.
that's the only other time. I know my mom gave him an ultimatum when me and my, not the youngest brother, but the other one who had the
Mhm.
father. She gave him an ultimatum and said alcohol or me and the kids, and that's the only other time that I'm aware of. But this was her telling me as an adult that she was done.
Yeah.
That was yeah, I felt obligated for a lot of different reasons.
Mhm.
And
And did your mom stay with your dad? Okay.
yeah. She was also very afraid of ending, you know, the life she'd known for the last 35
Mhm.
years. So there was she didn't know what she would do.
Mhm.
She knew she didn't want to be in that situation anymore.
Yeah.
It was I didn't know how to fix it, you know? That was the other part.
Right.
Like, I thought I had to, but
Mhm.
I couldn't, you know?
Yeah. And how is your dad doing now?
Sorry. There was after the intervention, it didn't go well. And it was a few months after that that I just said, all right, I'm not going to do anything else. Like my youngest brother and I almost took steps of, um, these would have been horrible things to do, but we didn't know what to do. He'd been going to different doctors for all the
Okay.
different prescriptions.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
not, that's a smooth move. Like you do that
Yeah.
because one doctor wouldn't look at one man and say, okay, you need antidepressants, you need uh, opioids for your back,
Opioids. Yeah.
you need Lunesta for sleeping, you need Wellbutrin, and oh, by the way, you're taking handfuls of over-the-counter Benadryl every day, and
Mm.
you're full of 12 to 15 cokes, and you're smoking weed all day long. It's like no
Mm.
doctor would have looked at all of this
Yeah,
and
right.
anything.
Yeah.
But he's also uh, you know cutting the pills up in smaller doses so that they don't, like the Lunesta, he would take half of one so they could live in the twilight. And
Mm.
I caught him. Oh, Ritalin also. There's Ritalin, and that's what I
Wow.
found him doing lines of off of his computer in his office.
Wow.
At home. So it was all of this. And when we did the intervention, he told us flat out, I'm just placating at this point. I'll go to one or two counselor follow-up sessions after this. But he looked right at me and said, I'm a effing adult. I'll do these drugs if I want to, and I don't care. And that's when, said, well, you don't care what you're doing to us when you do this. And
Yeah.
that was another few months. And then I kind of snapped out of it and said, all right, this mission, mission I'm on to fix him doesn't
Yeah.
have an end, and he's not ready. And I've already seen him not be ready and then be ready when I was a
Mhm.
kid. I know what that looks like. And he's telling me he's not ready. Not even that he's not ready, that he doesn't want to fix anything.
Mhm.
All right, well, here's what I do. I take myself away. And that's what I did. I sat my mom and dad down and I told him, I said, look, you're not going to hear from me
Yeah.
until I feel like coming back. And if I ever think that you're not you and you're all of this other stuff, then I'm just going to turn around and walk out, whether it's Christmas, a Wednesday,
So
or
yeah. So you chose you at that point.
I did. And
That's
yeah.
big.
And
That's
then
big.
he, in the year or so following, I think he got a little better. And my youngest brother was still living there for a while. And he said that he'd improved. But I think he's taken a step back. I know he has, because my youngest brother recently moved out and told me that there was some behavior that
Mhm.
suggests a lot of the same things are going on again.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure, but it doesn't impact me the same way as it
Okay.
did. And I think that has to do with a lot of the other things that I was trying to fix or trying to process or trying not to let destroy me have ended, or gotten to a point where I can wrap my head around them.
Mhm.
Not to say that I'm not concerned about my father,
Oh, I understand.
but I've kind of come to a good place about, if that's his decision, then I can stick to mine. And
Mhm.
I've told my parents, I said, I just bought a house several months ago, and they came over a couple of times, but I told them flat out, it's like, if I have the slightest hint of you're under the influence of anything at all, I'm not even gonna open the door for you. Like I'm gonna send you away. You can just drive an hour back home. And if I come up for a holiday, I'll turn right back around. You know, those kinds of things. So I've taken steps for me, like you just suggested, to say, all right, I can't change you. I can't force you to do anything. I can take me away from you. And, you know, if that's not good enough for you, then I can't do anything else at this point.
So you put some boundaries in place there to also like to protect yourself too.
Yeah. And I'd never done that with him, with my parents. And it was a weird thing to do, particularly so many years after going through this the first time as a kid.
Oh man, that's impactful and powerful story that you share. I mean, that's like a whole book or a lifetime movie. You know, still be able to
movie, definitely,
yeah. I mean, that's powerful. You know, I'm glad that you did choose you. I feel like a lot of times we have to make those decisions, especially because we can feel obligated to take care of our parents. You know, I feel like with my dad, he wasn't on drugs or anything, but for whatever reason, a lot of times he didn't want to work. So we would often go through a lot of we go through evictions. We have to move, and by the time I was 18, we had moved 18 times, and then graduating college at 23, it was like in the 30s, all because he didn't really want to work. So then when I got out of college and started working myself, I moved to Maryland because I needed a change of environment. I was tired of going through the same things in my parents' household. And when I moved to Maryland, I started working. I started making money that I had never known anybody could make before, working as a student advocate and part-time at a Boys and Girls Club. My parents would often call and ask for money, because they needed to pay a bill or they needed to pay rent or the car needed to be fixed. And a lot of times, I had to start putting those boundaries in place, as you mentioned, because where I'm giving money, I'm also taking it out of my household for things that we needed. So I definitely understand where you have to put those boundaries in place for, your own sanity, so you don't keep going back and forth and getting, hurt and tripped up by the same things, especially if somebody's not, willing to change. So then you also mentioned earlier that, the control thing, right? Where you started working out, exercising because you felt like that was one thing you had in your control. With my students, even in my book, Conquering Mountains, I even talk about how, you might not be able to control the obstacles you go through, but you do control the outcome, and we have these outcomes that we aspire to be. And, we often find ourselves in different types of trials and tribulations, hardships and heartaches, pains and sufferings. But as we begin to find those tools we can put in our toolbox to help us work through some of that trauma, definitely helps us to get to the point where we can stand at the top of the mountain and look back at what we've been through. And when you look back at some of the things that you have overcome, how does that make you feel?
I don't think I've overcome any of them yet.
Okay. Still processing.
Yeah. No, I am. I really am. I can see progress now where before I didn't see any of it, even if it was smacking me in the face. It took friends often. My youngest brother, John Robert, he's the youngest brother. I'll stop calling him the youngest brother and add a name. But it took close friends and John Robert usually to help me see that there was progress, because I just got locked into that feeling of despair. Whatever. There was so long where I didn't feel like there was ever going to be a way out. Even as I'd started to make any progress, it was difficult to see without somebody else helping me. And just like turning my head towards it, like, look, dummy, right there.
It's right there.
Yeah, and it was, and it wasn't until getting out of thinking I had to fix my dad that I even got a chance to be on my own and just sit and think and process on my own and just do nothing. So it wasn't, and I've not gotten past most of it. I mean, that period, the years prior, the stuff that happened when I was, before I even had memories that I've learned since, and other things. It's it's kept me from learning how to share any type of emotion properly. So and when I say it, I'm not over it. I know the progress. I see it. I can measure it and parcel out the different issues and say, yes, here is where this got better and this got better and this got better. But I don't have an easy time discussing any of it or sharing any of the range of emotions, whether it be something joyful or something that just destroys me. It's still, I'd rather keep it in. And I think that's part of seeing the success, is being able to really just articulate any of it to anybody, for any reason. I don't think personally, I'm not over any of it because I haven't figured out how to share a lot of it and process it outside of my own thoughts. So I don't think I'm there yet, even though some of the things are behind me. They still kind of eat away at me, because when they come up, it keeps me from functioning for all intents and purposes.
So have you ever done anything like this before, where you're kind of like sharing your story?
No, not at all. The most I've done to that extent, with close friends, maybe a little bit with my brother, and then, Amanda and Joanna got here a little while ago. The two of them in the last couple of years have helped me quite a bit as well. And then just a handful of other friends. But it's not been, none of it. Like, it was all close to the best, just stone faced, nothing, you wouldn't know what was going on, whether I just won the lottery or whether, somebody died. Like, you wouldn't know the difference. And
so this is big, man. Like, this is a huge accomplishment for you.
I can't believe I've gotten 38 minutes into this and I haven't had to stop.
I mean, that's huge, man. Because I feel like a lot of times we kind of hold those things in anyway, and it's hard to kind of, like I said, to articulate, to share out, because you also gotta realize the emotional impact of it as well too. But you taking your time out of your day to do something that you've never done before, that's a huge step, in the direction that you're in, the goals that you're trying to accomplish for yourself. So I definitely applaud you for doing that as well too.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for being a part. If someone wanted to reach out to you and give you a kudos or some words of encouragement, or to ask you about your story, how can they find you?
Oh gosh, I don't know what my Instagram anything is. I have one, but what's that? Oh yeah, 545 class. Joe said 545 class at True Core.
Yep.
And then the Facebook page, I guess. I don't know. Facebook. It's just Josh Buell, I think.
Josh Buell. Okay. And I'll post your I'll find the link to your Instagram, and I'll put your Facebook on the link as well on here too when I post the episode.
If you look for me on Facebook, it's the ODB emoji, because I never changed it from when I first set up.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. We can send it to you. Amanda just found it. I have no idea how to do that. So
okay. Well, thank you again for joining us today, Josh. We greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share your story. This is going to help. A lot of people are definitely praying for you as you work toward and strive to conquer those goals. And I definitely hope that you see the progress that especially that you made today, because this is a huge first step. Because this is not easy to share your story.
No, I appreciate it, Charles. I mean, this is personally for me, this is a lot. And then I'm just having you bring this out, and making it a platform that I feel comfortable sharing with. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, hang on. I'm gonna stop the recording.